Welcome back to News 24H. Today, my friends and I have analyzed some of the latest information about the US election situation. Mr. Donald Trump is increasingly losing his political advantage and risks losing the election at the end of the year because of the influence of the US economy is the topic today. According to a report from Oxford Economics, the U.S. economy is facing more difficulties than ever when the unemployment rate is increasing at an unprecedented speed, consumption is lacking, and U.S. GDP is declining. History shows that times of economic deceleration often caused the incumbent president to fail in re-election in the same year. According to the election model published by Oxford Economics on May 20, using factors such as unemployment rate, disposable income and inflation to forecast, Mr. Trump will lose deeply, only winning 35% of the popular vote. This is a strong reversal because this figure is 55% when COVID-19 has not flared. The Oxford Economics model has correctly predicted the percentage of popular votes in the elections since 1948, except for 1968 and 1976. However, presidential candidates can still be elected even if few votes are received. More popular such as George W. Bush in 2000 and Mr. Trump in 2016. Ohio, Missouri may be on the Democratic side. The national election model assumes that the U.S. economy is in a bad state in the fall, the unemployment rate is over 13%, the actual income per capita is reduced by nearly 6% compared to the same period last year and there is a period deflation short. The economy will still be worse than the bottom of the Depression, Oxford Economics said. A state election model that incorporates elements of local economic trends and gasoline prices shows that Mr. Trump lost heavily on the number of electoral votes at 328 to 210. This model shows that the 7 battle states will Democrats support: Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Missouri, and North Carolina. Oxford Economics introduced a state model last year and produced accurate results with 8 out of 10 elections since 1980, including Mr. Trump's victory in 2016. We forecast these states' economies will be significantly narrowed. Rising unemployment leads to a change in voting decisions. However, according to Greg Valliere, chief U.S. policy strategist at AGF Investments, the election is only half a year away. The past 6 months shows how much the world can change. 6 months ago, no one expected an unemployment rate of 20% or a 40% GDP decline. If the U.S. election takes place on May 20, Valliere said, former Vice President Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, will most likely win. But the next 6 months will give Mr. Trump more time to deal with Biden and blame the COVID-19 pandemic on China. Oxford Economics also acknowledges that their model has inherent limitations, not taking into account non-economic factors such as the advocacy program or the popularity of a presidential candidate. More importantly, the models do not account for potential fluctuations in the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's election could be a referendum on how Trump responded to this health crisis. If Democrats go to vote, Mr. Trump will lose in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, and Georgia, Oxford Economics said. In contrast, with the U.S. economy recovering, Trump could win extremely close in the number of electoral votes. According to users on Predictit, a prediction platform, that Mr. Trump has a 50% chance of re-election, an increase of 5 percentage points compared to the middle of March. Real Clear Politics surveys. The job of the incumbent is not easy either. A number of battleground states are being hit hard by the economy. For example, more than a quarter of the Michigan, Pennsylvania and Nevada workforces are required to apply for unemployment benefits for the first time between 14.3 and 9.5. This figure in Ohio, the state that indicates trends in U.S. elections, is in the same period of 20%. Every incumbent president faces a recession that could lead to a failure to re-election, said Ed Mills, U.S. policy analyst at Raymond James. The key factor is whether voters feel the economy recovers, unemployment falls sharply, and GDP increases rapidly. The real argument is what the U.S. economy will be like on Election Day. Election instability could pose a risk to the U.S. stock market, which has risen since the end of March on expectations that the economy will recover in a V-shape and large-scale stimulus packages from federal government. Wall Street does not want the policies that benefit businesses under Trump to disappear. Although investors dislike trade wars, the Trump administration's corporate tax cuts helped boost corporate profits in the S&P 500, creating a wave of stock repurchases. Washington's reduction of legal obstacles and increasing spending also helped the stock market go up. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the S&P 500 still increased by nearly 40% compared to the time before Mr. Trump was elected in 2016. If Biden wins the race to the White House, and the Democratic-controlled Senate, investors will worry about a tax increase with businesses and the rich, new restrictions on oil and gas production. Increase financial regulations. Mr. Trump has changed almost every area of the legacy of his predecessor Barack Obama, analysts at Eurasia Group warn on May 19. Biden, if elected, will find a way and restore Obama's legacy, going even further in many issues. The above is the analysis of News 24 Hours about the U.S. election situation. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe channels to keep up to date with the latest news.